This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
The views expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of WPSL, but you'll never know. In fact, if you tune in and stay long enough, you might just learn and understand a few things that were a little foggy up until now. It's time for Howard Insurance of Port St. Lucie to present the African American scene with your host, Rudy Howard.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Always glad to be with you here on a Wednesday night. I had the distinct honor and pleasure to meet with the police chief of Port St. Lucie and the city manager. I had expressed some concerns about the screening of police officers, and they agreed to meet with me and allowed me to express those concerns and provide me information with how they go about screening potential hires. And it was a very nice meeting. They were very receptive to my thoughts, and I was very receptive to the information that they gave me. And they both agreed that they would like to do my show, and so sometime in the next couple weeks, the police chiefs have been on here before, but we haven't had the city manager on before. I will have the city manager and the police chief on the African American scene, but it was worthwhile, and I really appreciate them taking the time to talk to me. I'm just a little nobody here, so it was kind of awesome that they did. I don't care what your politics are. You have to say the tone that President Biden has set and his ability to rally the forces to deal with this COVID has been extraordinary. Now, you can be the hardcore Republican all you want, but it is time that you have to admit that he did something extraordinary. And I'm going to tell you what the difference is. President Trump wouldn't do that because he doesn't want to put his fingers on it so that if something went wrong, it could be blamed on him. That's the difference. And as opposed to Biden, who jumped in with both feet and said, okay, here we go. This is what we're going to do, and he starts negotiating with drug companies and gets people pulled together. And that's really what we needed from the very outset, and I am positive, and even if you're a hardcore conservative, you would have to say, from what you've seen, if President Trump had acted in a similar manner, there may have been some lives, I'm going to say there may have been some lives that would have been saved with such action. But I'm open to your, remember now, you're free. 340-1590. If you want to disagree with me, please feel free to call up and do so. What I want to talk about now, I spent some time this week while I was working to turn on and listen to part of the hearings live. I had the ability, because I have double screens in my office. So I'd have the hearings live on one screen, maybe doing work on another screen. And here's what I want to say about where we are in America. We are hopelessly divided, but I think it can be fixed. You're not going to like my remedy, but I think it can be fixed. And here's my remedy. You have to get rid of the Electoral College. You have to get rid of the Electoral College if you want to bring the country together. And let me tell you why. When somebody gets beat by 7 million votes, that's a butt whooping. That's like losing a basketball game by 30 points or losing a football game 42-7. It's not close. You have been skunked. The only thing that allowed people to give rise to anger and frustration was the Electoral College. Somehow, because it's happened in the past, people expected the Electoral College to deliver the goods on behalf of their candidate, even though the vast majority of America did not want to support him. Now, I keep hearing people talk about the 74 million people that voted for him. Well, yeah, okay, that's true. But then there was 80 million that voted for Biden. You keep forgetting that part. So he got skunked from a popular point of view. But because of the Electoral College, you felt an entitlement. How dare you feel entitled because of the Electoral College? And I'm going to go back to, I've talked about this once before, and I'm going to say it again. The whole concept of our democracy, this is maybe a little bit of an idealistic point of view from a kid from the 60s, but the whole point of view is that you win votes because you have the best ideas. That's it. You're supposed to win because you have the best ideas. And here's what I'm going to tell you. Some of you are going to call up and say, well, if we got rid of Electoral College, then California or New York would constantly dominate the vote. And the answer to that is not if you are a good politician, because if you're a good politician and you understand the nature of what it takes to be elected, you will begin to modify your position and seek support from California and New York. And let me just give you a little piece of information for all of you that think that that's so unfair that they have outsized influence on the election. California pays an annual federal income tax of $234,499,000. New York pays $140,510,000, and Texas $133,417. That's the top three states federal taxes. And we got Steve on line one. Yes, sir.
Well, first of all, the Electoral College is outdated.
Yes.
100 years ago.
Yes.
So that's got to go. You're right. And gerrymandering's got to go. Voter suppression's got to go. But here's the key. Right now, the Democrats are blowing it because they've got to get rid of the filibuster. The minority just yesterday shot down one of their nominees. And this is not what they were elected. If they don't produce, I guarantee you won't see a Democratic president for the next 50 years.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Because the people that came out this time that never came out will say, see, they told me they were going to do it, and they lied when they had the power to take a vote and do it. 51. You play basketball. You vote on the rules. 4-3, you win. Okay. Anything, it's a popular win, except in the presidency.
I know.
And that's stupid.
It is.
That's stupid.
The only election of any type in this country where the popular doesn't win.
Okay, let me tell you something else that is, it's off subject, but it's a consequence of what we've done. We're $29 trillion in the hole.
Yes.
So if you read the bill that passed in the House and then the Senate on page 232, they talk about changing the currency to the United States dollar from the Federal Reserve note. Now, if you don't think they can't do it, they've done it 3 times. 1873, gold, silver dollar was banished as currency. And Nixon did gold. He took the dollar off the gold standard. and backed it up with the good faith of America. And now the good faith of America is no good anymore. So they've written into this legislation to change the currency. Now, if you had $100,000 in the bank and they said, well, we're going to give you $10,000 in the new currency for it, the old currency's no good anyway, you have to take it.
Yeah.
If you don't think it can't happen, read history. See, that's why I call them the useless, stupid Americans, USA. They never look at history, and it always repeats. And just like the election, it's repeating on us. A stupid move that was allowed to go on for 200 years backfired and damn near took our democracy down.
Yes,
for the
it
last
did.
4 years.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
So
that's why I say it's got to go, Steve. Because
it has to go.
We came so close to losing our democracy. I mean, it's scary when you think about it.
The Republican Party has turned into the fascist party. I'm sorry, that's just the short of it. At one time, the Republican Party stood for something. They don't stand for anything now. When the president's saying, go ahead, beat the guy up, I'll pay for your lawyers. Come on.
Yeah.
It doesn't stand for anything. So, people that call themselves Republicans or conservatives, I got to look at them and take a step back. You know what I mean? It's they're unpredictable. And the next thing I want to know is what meds are on. But anyway, I agree with you totally. The president should popular vote. That's it. He won by, 10 million votes?
Like 8 million, yeah.
And I'll tell you why Trump will not get reelected. He'll be in jail.
Oh, I think so, too. I think so, too.
So he's not going to get reelected. So,
that lady, that attorney general in New York, she's a badass. Trish.
She is what you would meet in a dark cave on a rainy night.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
She'll eat him alive.
She's a tough lady, man. You see, she ain't pulling no.
The other night.
She ain't pulling no punches going after Cuomo either.
Right. She said, "Listen, my job's not to back down. It's to get to the truth."
Yeah.
That's it. And she left, and everybody's sitting there going, "Whoa."
Oh,
but
yeah.
You know what, Rudy? That's what America needs.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's have some decision. Let's have some progress.
I agree.
Biden, he put us in more debt, but there's $2 trillion next year going into infrastructure, bridges, roads, jobs that are going to be here in America building those infrastructure, new water pipes, everything, $2 trillion. Yeah, we're going to go into debt, and we're probably going to have a currency change. But it's
Steve,
either that or we tax the rich.
And I've talked about this, and you've talked about this before. We are so overdue for infrastructure improvements. Look at what just happened in Jackson, Mississippi.
Oh, my God.
The pipes in this country, and this is one of the things I get so mad when they keep trying to say cut taxes, cut taxes. Some of the pipes in this country are well over 100 years old.
Oh, yeah.
And they were made
in Jackson, Mississippi, there were 8 breaks in one water main in the main water main.
Yeah.
There was 8 breaks in it.
Right.
So, I mean, they had to dig up the whole system.
And the materials
used to maintain it.
And the materials they used 100 years ago are not even close to the kind of materials that we have today. So at some point, we have to absolutely do something about our infrastructure.
Well, you remember the bridge that fell in and killed all those people when they were driving across it years back?
Yep,
and
I do.
Look at the Roosevelt Bridge right in Stewart, Florida. I mean, that's not even 15 years old, and they had to close it on each lane to do repairs to the understructure of it.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, we got to take care of our country.
This is going to be good, but they've got to get rid of the filibuster, or you're going to have Mitch McConnell running the Senate again, and there's no way.
Yeah.
So Pelosi, they got about a week to act because I'm already hearing people grumble about why aren't they doing the 51, 50-50. Republicans would do it. Are you crazy? They would do it in a heartbeat.
I agree with you too. And I
So,
think I think that's probably why we've lost some support too, because people don't like the fact that sometime when we're in power we act a little wimpy instead of being tough like the Republicans.
A little wimpy. My God, I'd put you in your locker and give you a wedgie you'd never forget. That's being a little more than wimpy, but we are. He should get rid of that filibuster and just bang, bang, bang. Voter rights, educational rights, health rights, 51 to 50, 51 to 50, right down the line. Who cares?
Right.
That's what we put them there for. That's what they better do, because if they don't, your grandchildren will be hearing about this thing that used to be called the Democrats.
Thank you, my friend. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Care.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, he's right. There's going to be Biden's going to get maybe a year, and he's going to have to produce. And if he doesn't produce, there's going to be a bloodbath in 2022. I feel pretty good about what he's done thus far, just from a tone that he has set. But here, in line with what we're just talking about, here's the other thing I want to talk to you about. Why in the devil are you against a $15 an hour minimum wage? Why? You have been hoodwinked, conned, and lied to so much, and you have bought some of this stuff lock, stock, and barrel, and it has really shaped your mind in bad ways. And what I want you to do, see, this is not necessary. You don't have to listen to me. I'm one little guy from Port St. Lucie who has a big mouth and big opinions, but you can find information to support what I'm telling you. Just go and do some research. You can do some of it in 15 minutes. The $15 an hour change is not going to be destructive to our economy. It's going to help the economy. And I'm going to tell you why. And I've had this discussion with you before over the years. One of the things, the first person that figured this out, and some of you have heard me say this before, so bear with me, was Henry Ford. Okay? Henry Ford developed the Model T. Fantastic piece of equipment. First motorized, really sophisticated motorized transportation. Then all of a sudden he figured out nobody could buy it. They couldn't afford it. So what did he do? He gave people raises. And those raises trickled within the economy. People had more money, and then all of a sudden people were buying Model Ts. And the Model T took off. Why? Because he injected money into the economy. Just take your Ronald Reagan hat off for a second and just listen to what I'm telling you, because what I'm trying to tell you is logical and it makes sense. I read an article in Forbes about 3 years ago, and Forbes, and you know that's not some liberal communication. Forbes said conservatives better be careful, because if there is not enough money in the system, if you have created the best widget in the history of the world and nobody has the money to buy it, what's the point? So by putting more money into the system, what you're going to find is that family might be able to go to McDonald's or Burger King, and then he might be able to take his wife out once a month to go to a nice dinner. And for those of you that are my age, the transition that we have seen is really pretty obvious. When I was in high school, and you all will remember this, every kid in my high school just about worked at McDonald's or Burger King. There was no grown folks. There was no grown folks working at McDonald's or Burger King. Okay? You know, I mean, they were all the kids from my high school and the other local high schools was at Burger King, and in my area we also had Jack in the Box. They was at Jack in the Box, Burger King, or McDonald's. Now go through the McDonald's today. Those are not all kids in there now, are they, Cliff?
No, they're sort of like us.
Yes.
They're older than us.
There's adults in there trying to make a living for their families working at McDonald's and Burger King.
I'll bet they'll be glad to see a minimum wage rise.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, if you just look at that, and again, if you're my age, I don't expect if you're younger than me that you would be able to identify the change that has happened. But if you're my age, you've seen it because all the kids had that darn job at McDonald's or Burger King. And now you got grown folks working at Wendy's, Burger King, and McDonald's. And we got Bob on line one. Yes, sir.
Hey, Cliff, I'd rather have the grown folks working at all the fast food because they're the older people, they work because they want to. A lot of them, a lot of them don't need the money. But
they don't.
Say,
you're saying they don't need the money?
I'm saying a lot of older people, they'll take jobs because they want to be around people and they want to work. And I would rather have a staff of senior citizens making my food than a bunch of teenagers that really don't even want the damn job. But you can't pay people at McDonald's $15 an hour. They're just going to lay off. McDonald's has already talked about robotizing and kiosks. They said we don't need it. They can't pay people at McDonald's or all these fast food places $15 an hour. The minimum wage is a starting wage. I started in a lawn business when I was 12, 13 years old. I don't think it was even legal for the guy that hired me. I had one of the biggest services in New Jersey. And you can't do that. I mean, I got paid $1.75 an hour back then. I mean, I'm an old man now, but
I got you beat. I worked for
$1
an hour.
Premium finance.
I worked for $1 an hour.
Yeah, I worked for $1.75 when I was 12 years old, and I don't think I was legally supposed to be working even then. And you know my area. We talked about it before. You know Trenton. You know Stone Premium Finance.
Yeah. Well, listen. Here's the thing, though. If in fact we have an adult who's working at McDonald's or Burger King because that's the job available, okay, and they're using that to support their family.
No adults doing that.
But no, yes, they are.
No. The minimum wage is a starting wage for young children, like you said.
But the
that's older
not...
people will take it because they just want to work. They don't even care about the money. Some of them don't even need the money.
They got to pay their co-pays.
Well, do you really believe that, Bob? Do you really?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And other things you've said, you're like the most likable, clueless guy in the world to me right now.
I'm clueless?
Absolutely. But I would love to hang out with you. You were talking about the Electoral College. Why do you think that was started?
I can tell you why it was started. Do you know why it started? Do you know why it was started? Because you called up and wait. You called up and wait. You called up and challenged. You called up and challenged me
Go ahead.
For
Okay, I
for
just-
for
go
my
for it.
knowledge,
Go for it.
you tell me. Do you know why it was started?
That's what I just said I was going to do. Yes, I do. Because
Tell me
people
why it
would
was
only
started.
spend-
Tell me why it was started.
Politicians would only spend time in the most populated areas of every state, and that's why it started.
That's not true.
Yes, that is the
That
absolutely
that
main reason
absolutely
it started.
that
But I'll tell you
absolutely
something else.
is not true. You misinformed.
Yes, it is.
No, it's
Rudy,
not
and I'll tell
true.
you
That's
something else.
that's not accurate. Now, do you want to hear why it was formed?
Need their own electoral colleges at this point.
I'm going to tell you why it was formed. You want to know why?
Places like
Do you want to know why?
talk. Rudy, let me talk. Places like California, they have so many millions of people there, but the only ones that the politicians care about and the only ones they go to is why the electoral college started is places like Los Angeles and San Diego and San Francisco.
You're
Where all the
wrong.
populations are.
You're wrong.
Okay, well, then I'm wrong.
Okay, well then now let me educate you. Okay? I'm going to educate you. The Electoral College started because initially when it was the public's right to vote for a officer, there was an inadequate method of communication. So what they decided was there's just two prongs to this. One was they needed to make sure that people were informed that had to make a decision about the candidate. So they thought electors who would be closer to the system would be more well informed in order to make the decision about the candidate. That's number one. Number two, the point was about the slaves versus the white population. That's where the 3/5 came from in terms of providing opportunities for black people to vote, and they tried to dilute that vote because the Southerners had so many black people. Now that is why you had the Electoral College.
You're totally misinformed on that. But
No, I'm not. No, I've looked that up. You look it up. Hey, look it up. Look it up before you challenge me. You look it up, because I have.
I'll look it up. I'll look it up on Instagram or somewhere.
Okay.
But black people did better under Trump than in like the last 45 years. What do you say about that?
That's not true.
Oh, that's not true either.
No.
Oh my God! I gotta watch the channels you watch. What is it? Cartoon channels? What's going on here?
Okay. Well, let me just educate you on something right here.
You guys.
What counties did Trump try to turn the votes over at? Tell me which ones.
I don't. You tell me. I don't know.
All the black areas: Detroit, Philadelphia, Atlanta, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Those are the places that he tried to overturn the vote. Do you think that black people are stupid and they did not see that he was specifically targeting black people to throw their votes out? Do you think they didn't figure that out?
Black people will be so much better under Trump.
Do
than
you
they will
think
be
that
under
they
Trump.
didn't figure that out? Do you think they didn't figure that out?
I know they figured it out because Trump got more black votes and Hispanic votes this election than any other president in recent history.
Well,
how do you explain that now?
Then why was he trying to throw their votes out? Why was he trying to throw their votes out? He wasn't trying to throw out everybody's vote. He was just trying to throw out the black votes. Why was he just trying to throw out the black votes?
Rudy, we don't care how tan people are. We're all the same. Don't buy into what the Democrats are selling. They're keeping people poor for their votes.
Bob,
and now they're going in.
let's just be think it through. Let's think it through. Rather than putting on your conservative hat, think it through. Think about the areas where he challenged the vote. That's all. Just look at that. Just look at the areas where he challenged the vote. He didn't challenge all of the votes. He didn't challenge the votes everywhere. He challenged the votes in specific geographic areas, but it just so happens those geographic areas were occupied by mostly black and brown people.
Yes, and guess what? That's where the Democrats infiltrate and screw up everything, because he got more votes from African Americans. It's even a minute that he lost, but he still got more from the Mexicans and the blacks. And guess why? Because they caught on to the Democrats. Democrats want to keep you poor for your votes. Now they're going to haul in. They're going to open the borders and bring them in because they want to make sure they have the right votes, because they pulled a fast one last time. Without this freaking mail-in balloting, they would have never won.
Well, that's not true. But you know what? See, here's the problem, and this is why the Electoral College has to go. You want to have ideological purity, even if people do not agree with you, and the votes have said, if you look at them, you can't win the popular vote in the general election. Trump lost it the first time around to Hillary by 3 million, and he lost it by 8 million to Biden this time. So what is that telling you? The vast majority of the American people do not agree with your conservative thinking. That's it.
How did Trump lose to Hillary? Oh, you mean by the popular vote?
That's right.
Yeah, well, the popular vote can kiss everybody's. The states need their own electoral segregations.
No, they don't.
Guess what?
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't.
Cities dominate, and they get all the money. You know what really needs to happen is states' rights. We're only supposed to send money to D.C. D.C. has become a public clearinghouse for freaking the still functional states and counties, which are mostly Republican, have to send all our money to D.C. 75%, they say, of every dollar gets lost, stolen, and used for re-election for those frauds in D.C., and then we have to beg for the debris to come back? No. We need to only send to D.C. money for military, national defense, which includes borders, and national emergencies for hurricanes or earthquakes.
Listen,
but
Bob, just keep advocating your ideology, and you'll keep being you'll keep being in the minority. It's that simple. It's not complicated.
No, we're
just keep advocating your philosophies that people don't agree with, and you'll still be in the minority. That's just the way it's going to be.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. Minorities need to wake up and realize that they're being used by the Democrat Party. And you guess what? When Castro and people like him and what's his name in Russia, Stalin, once they get enough votes and they don't have to worry about votes again, then the votes go away and they become illegal, and then you get nothing. All the freebies go away.
Well, all what I'm going to say to you is this. It's very simple. We can fix the whole thing. What we should do is go to a selective service system like we did when I was in high school. Every person that turns 18 gets automatically registered to vote. Now, I know you would object to that, right? Wouldn't you object? You object to that because you don't want all them people voting.
You guys, why would you say that?
Well, tell me I'm wrong. Do you object to that? Do you object to people automatically being registered to vote?
To vote.
Huh?
I want everybody that's legal and smart to vote. Yeah.
Okay. Do you get a chance to?
I don't care if they
do you get a chance to decide who's smart enough to vote?
No. Anybody can vote.
Okay.
Yeah, apparently, in the last election, they just mail them to your house, and China helped out Biden. Now we owe China. Now Biden is beholden to China now. They gave his son $4 million in his pocket. And
there we go. You know what? No, you know what? I don't allow that. You're saying something that you can't prove. I object to that, and I will not be a party to allowing you to propose information to my audience that is just not true and you can't substantiate. That's out of bounds. That's out of bounds. I will hang up on you for that.
That's out of bounds. Everything everybody says against what you believe is out of bounds.
No, you can, listen, you can argue with me, but what I talk about is fact. When you talk about stuff that's not fact, that's out of bounds on my show.
From CNN and MSNBC and ABC and CBS and all the other polluted media we have in this country, and that's wrong.
Well, okay, well you can say that, but you can't talk about China and Biden when there's no proof. That's out of bounds. That gets you hung up on.
Hunter Biden got $4 million in his pocket, and he got a 1.
Hang up on him, Cliff. That's done. He's done. We don't do that. We don't do that on my show.
No filibustering and.
Well, no filibustering, but we don't do that. I don't allow that. You're gonna talk about something that this is one of these conspiracy theories, and that's what's wrong with our country now. We got all these conspiracy theories out there that people promulgate in order to support an ideology, and it's destructive. And you'll not do that on this show. You can call up and argue with me till the sun comes up, but you'll argue with me about stuff that's factually based.
When you call Rudy's show, what I'm going to be doing is I'll be enforcing that you give him the same respect that you'd give Rush Limbaugh if you'd have called his show when he was still alive.
That's right. That's right. But okay, so we got past that. But anyway, let's go back to this. I want you to know that, and I'm going to tell you again because I keep telling you about this, and I would appreciate. I tried to find a clip that I could get Cliff to play, but I didn't find one that's short enough that we could play on the Patriotic Millionaires. The Patriotic Millionaires are 100% behind the $15 an hour wage. 100%. They are not left-wing liberals. They are rich people that hire thousands and thousands of people, and they think that it is appropriate for a $15 an hour wage. Now, Bob's of the opinion people are working at McDonald's and Burger King because they want to, and that it's not necessarily a job that they're doing to support their family. And I would have to say to him, he's living in a bubble because that's simply not true. That time of there's people working there because they need to have the money. There's people that are working full time. I know there's one at the McDonald's over by me by Darwin Square. That lady's been working there, I know, for a good 6-7 years. And she's single by herself, and that's her livelihood. That's how she lives, off of that money she makes at McDonald's. But, it's hard for someone to believe that people actually have to live by that standard. But it's true. They do. So what I'm trying to get you to see is why you would be against that. There's no reason for you to be against that. If you are an employer, as I have been for the last 20-some years, sometime you give your people money and you get less money because you want them to be productive and you want them to survive. With companies making record profits, I just saw a report published by Elizabeth Warren that the top companies during this COVID crisis have made $1.3 billion. $1.3 billion. And I want you to understand the tax cut that Trump engineered was $1.5 billion. So when they're telling you this COVID relief bill is too much, the tax cut they gave the rich people is equivalent to what the COVID relief bill is for everyday Americans. And I want to know when you guys, conservatives, are going to wake up and figure out it's okay to help my fellow Americans. I don't have objections to you helping rich people. I wish that I was a rich person. But I'm rich with my life. I may not be rich with money, but I'm rich with my life. But there is no reason why we should not support the betterment of our fellow man. It's what the Bible tells us to do. As one of my favorite people, William Barber, says, who's a pastor from North Carolina, he says a budget is a moral document. A budget is a moral document, and it reflects your morality as a country, how you have prioritized your spending. And I saw something else today, and I couldn't find it before I came here. There's a quote from Eisenhower. Largely in the 50s is often thought of as the golden time in this country where we did so many things and life was good, blah, 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 blah. Not so good for everybody, but life was good in general. The tax rate was between 70 to 90%. Okay? Here's what Eisenhower said, and this was a quote from him. I wish I could find it because I wanted to read it to you tonight. Eisenhower said, "I'm keeping the tax rate high. And the reason why I keep the tax rate high is because if I lower the tax rate, they'll put the money in their pocket. When the tax rate's high, they have to spend it on equipment and employees or else give it to me." And I thought to myself, oh my God, that's brilliant, because it's true. What he was saying is, my tax rate is at a point where if you want to be selfish and keep the money yourself, I'm going to hit you hard for taking that approach. But because you get tax deductions for hiring employees, buying plant and equipment and facilities, you get a chance to write that off. So what's your choice there? I read that and I went, man, that's from the 1950s. He figured that out. That makes an awful lot of sense, don't it, Cliff?
Well, that was the 50s, though. I wasn't quite, I was born in the late 50s. You were early 50s, right?
Early 50s. But I'm just saying that his philosophy, there's some logic to his philosophy about if the tax rate is higher, then they have to find ways to spend it in order to reduce their taxes, versus if the tax rate is lower, it is an opportunity for them to put more money in their pocket. And I would also say that one of the other things that has happened over time is corporations have had the opportunity to put their money overseas and use cheap labor. And Winnie, how are you?
I like how you, but he got on here. I had to hurry up on him, cut him off, huh? Sometimes that happens and things like this here. Well, how can I had asked you this before, but how can they get rid of the electoral college? How can they get rid of it?
Well,
how can they get rid of it?
Winnie, I think we have to get rid of it. Even my regular listener Steve called up and he agreed we got to get rid of it. I think, well, first of all, I'm going to tell you it's going to be a fight probably to the death to get rid of it because the Republicans see the Electoral College as their life-saving vehicle for trying to stay in power. Although it is outmoded, it makes no sense, but I think it can be done. I think there's a movement afoot. They've got like 29 or 30 states that have agreed about the Electoral College, and you got to have so many states, and then there has to be a vote on it because it's part of the Constitution. I do think it can happen. I don't think it's going to be. It's not going to be easy, but I do think it can happen. Because once people realize,
it dated back to the 1800s.
Yes, it was developed in 1887 at the Philadelphia Convention. That's when they developed the thing. And I would just tell you that anybody, if you sit down and think about it logically, and don't think about it politically, like Bob thinks about it politically. You don't think about it politically. You think about it logically. It needs to be gotten rid of. And if you want to win, and I said this because Democrats did it, if you go and appeal to all people, you have a chance to win. You don't have to Florida, California, and New York don't have to automatically be Democrat. If you got ideas to propose that they find acceptable.
Oh, that would be nice.
Yeah.
What about that governor? He had a hot water with them ladies, ain't it? Them ladies, they work for him. Or they work for him. He was sent to arrest them.
What's that now?
That governor in New York. And them ladies, they work for him.
Ran for who?
Them ladies.
Governor Cuomo?
That governor in New York, they said they accused him of sexual harassment.
Yes, they have. And that lady.
They work for him, right?
Yes, those ladies all worked for him. Yes. I heard tonight though, on my way here, that he has apologized.
Yes, yes, yes. He heard that too. But he said he will not resign.
Oh, he won't resign, but he did apologize. You heard it?
Yeah.
Okay, because that's what I heard on the way here. I heard that he actually came out and apologized. But
yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. It's like, but don't vote for him again. We'll take time to vote. Don't vote for him again.
I don't think he's going to get voted on. No, I don't think. I think he's really hurt himself after looking so good in the beginning of the COVID. He's really hurt himself bad now.
Yeah, they say that because of numbers. They say the numbers or something about the nursing home.
Yeah, right.
It's like this. Oh, that's messed up. All right, we'll be talking. Y'all have a good night.
Okay, Winnie, take care. Yeah, I think he's hurt himself. And I lived in New York under his dad, Mario, and I thought Mario was a very good governor. And I emailed a friend of mine, and because I've been out there for so long, and I asked him, and he was of the same opinion I was. He thought that Mario Cuomo was a great governor, but he doesn't think very much of Andrew Cuomo. So I don't know, because listen, you know what? It's one of those things that power is a thing that can seduce you into being somebody different than you are, unless you can really hold yourself in check. I think so. But anyway, so I would hope I want all of you to think carefully about the minimum wage. And I want you to don't think about exactly how much that's going to cost us, because there's ways that I think that we can cover the cost of the COVID bill and the increased minimum wage. There's ways we can do that. And I think that we have to think to ourselves in terms of priority, what is important to us? How important are our people to us? Because if we could spend 7 months sending a rocket ship to Mars, landing it on the surface, along with supplemental instruments to fly across the surface of Mars, at what cost? And then we have people in food lines, and we have, and I did the research on it before I came on the air. The vast majority of the companies that got tax cuts did reinvestment, did stock buybacks. They didn't reinvest it in people. And some of the companies that said that they were going to do some hiring have actually laid off people after they got the money. Just think about that. I don't want you to agree with me. I just want you to think. Don't be so into your own cocoon with your political beliefs that you can't think outside of that cocoon.
There is something above and beyond political beliefs.
Yes.
It's called truth.
Yes.
and truth overrides all of it, no matter what it is.
Yes.
So be cautious, but try to err on the side of truth if you dare.
That is, and listen, that's something we have really desperately got to get back to. We have got to get back to truth. That's why I cut the guy off. None of that making an allegation against somebody that you can't prove. If somebody did something,
especially with a conspiracy theory that we've heard as a conspiracy theory for a long time.
Yes, exactly.
Over and over and over, and then I guess to some people, if they hear it more than 30 times, then that must be true.
Yeah. Okay. Well, see, give him one quick. All right, but we're gonna this one quick call here. Let's see if we got this one last call real quick. Okay. Okay. Yes, Brian.
Hey, Rudy. Long time no speak to.
Yes.
Happy New Year. You were right about the election. I know we only got a few seconds, but I agree with you what you were saying about how we can send rovers up to Mars and all that, and multi-billion-dollar projects like that, but yet you have people in the food lines and all that. And I just want to echo that sentiment in saying we're putting all this effort into saving lives in the COVID-19 pandemic, but yet on the topic of abortion, we're doing the opposite. You know what I'm saying? We've sanctioned the taking of lives of innocent preborn babies, but now we're just really busting our butts to save lives in COVID. So I just wanted to echo that sentiment.
Okay.
Kind of flip it on the other side, sir. Thank you.
All right. Okay, Brian. Thank you. Well, folks, another exciting African American scene, and I'd like to thank you for tuning in. God bless and be safe, and I will see you next Wednesday right here for the African American scene.
Watch for the video archives on YouTube under WPSL TV. In fact, WPSLTV.com will take you straight to our YouTube presence where you can look for episodes of the African American scene and find out what really, really happens when folks try to take the show over suddenly with jargon and conspiracy theories compared to the truth. You can hear it all. It's all there on YouTube. This, by the way, just so happens to be WPSL, Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast. It is now 7 o'clock.